Okay, welcome to the first of what's probably going to be quite a few of these instructional videos in our flipped classroom experiment. First one, you'll see from the title, is all about rearranging equations, changing the subject of an equation. Let's talk about what that means. Let's change the subject in a second. But first, I just want to remind you of the balance method, which we've talked about before, and is going to be crucial to being able to rearrange an equation. So let's suppose you've got an equation like this. 3x plus 7 is 28. Now you can probably tell me the answer to that in your head, but we've seen how to do this using the balance method, which is where I do the same thing to this side as I do to this side, keeping it balanced, keeping both things the same. So my first step might be to take away 7 from both sides. Would be a sensible thing to do to get rid of this plus 7 here. I'm going to get rid of that plus 7. I'll be left with 3x on the left and 28 minus 7, which is 21 on the right. And obviously the next step is to get rid of the 3 by dividing. 3x divided by 3, which is going to leave me with 1x. And if I do the same on the other side, divide by 3, 21 divided by 3, it's going to give me 7. So the solution to this equation, 3x plus 7 equals 28, is x equals 7. And you can check that nice and easily. If you want, just go back to your original equation, 3x plus 7, and use the value that we found, x equals 7. If you put the 7 that we've just worked out into the equation, get 3 times 7 plus 7, which is 21 plus 7 is 28. So, which is the answer we were expecting to get. So we should all be familiar with the balance method, which is great because we're going to use it for changing the subject of an equation. So what do we mean by that? Well, if I've got an equation or a formula, I'm going to use the formula for turning between Fahrenheit and centigrade. So 2 different temperature systems. If I want to work out the temperature in Fahrenheit, I have to do 9/5 of C plus 32. So if I knew the temperature in centigrade was 20 degrees Celsius, 20 degrees centigrade, same thing, then I would know that the Fahrenheit temperature would be 9/5 times 20 plus 32. Just a bit of substitution into my formula. 9/5 of 20, 20 divided by 5 is 4. So that's 9 times 4 plus 32. 36 plus 32 is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So 20 degrees Celsius is the same as 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what this formula does. So what I want to do is I want to be able to change the subject of this formula. Now at the moment, the subject, you'll see here, at the moment, F is the subject. F is the subject. And we're going to rearrange the formula so that C is the subject. So make C the subject. So that instead of a formula for turning centigrade into Fahrenheit, I'll have a formula for doing the opposite, for going from Fahrenheit into centigrade. So how are we going to go about doing that? We're going to need to use our balance method. As long as we do the same thing to one side as we do to the other, the relationship between F and C doesn't change. So everything I do to the right, I'm going to do to the left. And I'm trying to get, just like when we were solving for X, I'm trying to get C on its own. So I want to get rid of the 9/5 somehow, and I want to get rid of the 32 somehow. Those are the two things that I need to get rid of. How are we going to go about doing that then? Well, we'll do, like I keep saying, do it in exactly the same way. We're going to get rid of the plus 32 first, because we always do. We always do it in the opposite order to bid mass. So we're going to deal with the addition of 32, sorry, before we deal with the multiplication by 9 or the division by 5. Because we're undoing it. We're undoing the process, so we've got to go through bid mass backwards. So my first step is I'm going to lose that 32. I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. Just jump that page up there. And F minus 32 just becomes F minus 32 is equal to, well, 9/5 of C plus 32 minus 32. Obviously they cancel. And we're left with 9/5 of C. F minus 32 is 9/5 of C. So we're getting there. We want to get C on its own, remember. We're rearranging to make C the subject. So F minus 32 is 9/5 of C. So I can get rid of the multiplication or the division. Now, whether I get rid of the division by 5 or the multiplication by 9 doesn't matter, because division and multiplication are interchangeable. But I think it's probably going to be easier to get rid of the 5. So I'm going to get rid of the divide by 5 by multiplying both sides by 5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And in fact, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to leave it in a bracket. No need to expand it out, really. 5 bracket F minus 32 is equal to 9C, because obviously, once again, the divide there and the multiply there have cancelled out. And look, I've written plus 5 there, when I should have written multiply. Okay, last step, we're nearly done. Is I'm going to divide by 9 to get rid of the 9 there, divide by 9, divide by 9, get rid of the multiply by 9, so I'm going to have C on its own, nice and easily. C is equal to, and again, I don't need to actually divide by 9, I can leave it as a fraction. 5 F minus 32, close brackets, all over 9 is equal to C. I'm just going to check that that makes sense, because I've got, from the other slide, you'll remember, I know that 20 degrees Celsius is equal to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I put 68 into this formula now, I should get the answer 20 back. So let's just double check that. 5 times 68 minus 32, close brackets, all divided by 9, is equal to, well, 68 minus 32 is 36. 5 times 36 over 9. Again, division and multiplication, doesn't matter what order you do them in, so I'm going to do 5 36s, or 180. Should know your 36 times table, of course. 180 over 9, and it's obvious that that's going to be 20 degrees Celsius, isn't it? So it looks like my formula is correct, because it gives me the answer I was expecting. Oh, that didn't change colour. Oh well. I've rearranged my formula to get C as the subject. So that about covers that. But I'm going to put another video up with another example if you feel like you need a little bit more information. If you don't, you're ready to get on with the exercise, which is fantastic.